The morning sun was cold and sharp as Maya Chen stepped off the bus in downtown Detroit. She was 19 years old, small in height, and wearing a dress she had bought from a thrift store for $3. The dress was blue with tiny white flowers, and it had a small tear near the bottom that she had fixed with a needle and thread the night before. Her black shoes were old but clean. She had polished them with a cloth until they looked almost new. In her hands, she carried a folder. The folder was brown and worn at the edges. Inside were sheets of music, some of them held together with tape because they had been used so many times. Maya held the folder close to her chest as she walked down the street toward a large building made of gray stone. This building was the Harrison Academy of Music. It was one of the most famous music schools in the entire country. Students came from all over the world to study here. The teachers were some of the best pianists, violinists, and composers alive. And today, the Academy was holding an open audition. Anyone could come and play. Anyone could try to win a place at this great school. Maya had seen the notice 3 weeks ago. It was pinned to a board at the public library, where she sometimes went to read books about music. When she saw it, her heart began to beat fast. She read the notice 5 times. Open audition. All instruments welcome. Scholarships available for exceptional talent. She had thought about it for days. She had almost decided not to come. Who was she to walk into a place like this? She had no formal training. She had no teacher. She had no expensive piano at home, but something inside her would not let the idea go. A small voice kept saying, "What if? What if this is your chance? What if you never get another one?" So here she was, standing in front of the academy, looking up at its tall windows and heavy wooden doors. Other people were walking inside. Maya watched them. They looked different from her. They wore nice clothes. They carried instrument cases that looked brand new. They walked with confidence, like they belonged here. Maya did not feel like she belonged, but she took a deep breath and walked through the doors anyway. Inside, the academy was beautiful. The floors were made of polished wood. The walls were covered with paintings of famous musicians. There were chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and the light they gave was soft and golden. Maya had never been in a place like this before. A woman sat behind a desk near the entrance. She had gray hair and glasses, and she looked at Maya with a small frown. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. "I am here for the audition," Maya said. Her voice came out quieter than she wanted. The woman looked at her for a moment. Her eyes moved from Maya's old dress to her worn folder to her polished but clearly old shoes. "Name?" the woman asked. "Maya Chen." The woman wrote something on a piece of paper. "Piano?" "Yes. Wait in the hall with the others. You will be called when it is your turn." Maya thanked her and walked down a long corridor. At the end was a large hall with wooden benches along the walls. About 30 other people were already there, waiting. Most of them were young, like Maya. Some looked nervous. Some looked bored. Some were practicing fingering exercises in the air, their hands moving over invisible keys. Maya found an empty spot on a bench near the corner and sat down. She placed her folder on her lap and looked around. The person next to her was a young man in an expensive suit. He was looking at his phone and did not even glance at her. Across the hall, 2 girls were talking in low voices. One of them looked at Maya and whispered something to her friend. They both laughed quietly. Maya pretended not to notice. She was used to this. People often looked at her and made judgments. They saw her clothes, her background, her lack of money. They thought they knew everything about her from these things, but they did not know her story. They did not know what she had been through to get here. Maya's family had come to America from China when she was 7 years old. Her father had been a music teacher in their home country. He loved the piano more than anything. When Maya was very small, he would sit her on his lap and play songs for her. He taught her the names of the keys. He taught her simple melodies. He told her that music was a language that everyone in the world could understand. When they came to America, life was hard. Her father could not find work as a music teacher. His certificates from China were not accepted here, so he took a job in a factory, working long hours for little money. But every night, when he came home tired and sore, he would still sit at their small piano and play. That piano was the one thing of value they had brought from China. It was old and not very good. But to Maya's father, it was precious. He taught Maya to play on it. He gave her lessons every evening, no matter how tired he was. He said she had a gift. He said she could be great one day. Then, when Maya was 16, her father got sick. The sickness was bad, and he could not work anymore. The medical bills were huge. Maya's mother worked 3 jobs to pay them, but it was not enough. They had to sell things. They sold the television. They sold the furniture. And finally, with tears in his eyes, Maya's father told them to sell the piano. Maya remembered that day like it was yesterday. She remembered watching 2 men carry the piano out of their small apartment. She remembered her father sitting in his chair, looking out the window, saying nothing. 6 months later, her father died. After that, Maya had no piano to practice on. But she did not stop. She found a church near her home that had an old piano in a back room. The pastor was a kind man. He said Maya could come and play for 1 hour every Sunday after the service. It was not much, but it was something. Maya also went to the library. She borrowed books about music theory, about famous composers, about piano technique. She watched videos online, studying how great pianists moved their hands, how they expressed emotion through the keys. And at night, when she could not sleep, she would lie in bed and practice on a keyboard she had drawn on a piece of cardboard. She would move her fingers over the silent keys, hearing the music only in her mind. For 3 years, this was her life. Working at a diner during the day to help her mother pay the bills, practicing at the church on Sundays, studying alone at night, waiting for a chance that might never come. And now, that chance was here. Maya sat in the hall of the Harrison Academy, holding her folder of worn sheet music, and waited for her name to be called. The minutes passed slowly. One by one, the other people were called into the audition room. Some came out smiling. Some came out with tears in their eyes. Some came out with no expression at all. Maya watched them all. She tried to stay calm. She tried to remember what her father had told her long ago, when she was nervous before her first recital. "Do not think about the people watching you," he had said. "Think only about the music. Let the music speak for you. Let it tell your story." Finally, after 2 hours of waiting, a man in a black suit appeared at the door. "Maya Chen," he called out. Maya stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she made herself walk forward. She followed the man through a set of double doors and into a large room with high ceilings and tall windows. At the far end of the room was a grand piano. It was the most beautiful piano Maya had ever seen. It was black and shining, and it looked like it cost more money than her family had ever had. In front of the piano was a long table. 3 people sat behind it. They were the judges. 2 of them were women, 1 young and 1 older. The third was a man with gray hair and a stern face. Maya would later learn that his name was Dr. Richard Holloway, and he was one of the most respected piano teachers in the country. But right now, she knew nothing about him. She only saw his cold eyes looking at her, judging her, deciding who she was before she had played a single note. Maya walked to the piano and sat down on the bench. She placed her folder of music on the stand. She took a deep breath, and then she began to play. Maya's fingers touched the keys, and the first notes filled the room. She had chosen to play a piece by Chopin, one of her father's favorites. It was called the Nocturne in E-flat major, and it was a piece full of beauty and sadness. Maya had practiced it hundreds of times on the old church piano. She knew every note by heart. She played the opening bars with care. Her fingers moved smoothly over the black and white keys. The music rose into the air, soft and gentle like a whisper. But something was wrong. Maya could feel the eyes of the judges on her. She could feel their doubt. The older woman was writing something on a piece of paper. The younger woman was looking at her phone under the table. And Dr. Holloway, the man with the stern face, was leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed. He was not listening. Not really. Maya tried to focus on the music. She tried to remember her father's words. Let the music speak for you. But it was hard. The grand piano felt strange under her fingers. It was so different from the old piano at the church. The keys were smoother. The sound was richer. She was not used to it. She made a small mistake. Her finger hit a wrong note. It was tiny, barely noticeable. But Dr. Holloway noticed. "Stop," he said. The word cut through the music like a knife. Maya's hands froze over the keys. She looked up at the judge's table. Dr. Holloway was holding up one hand. His face showed no emotion. "That is enough," he said. "Thank you." Maya did not understand. She had only played for about 30 seconds. The piece was not even close to finished. "I am sorry," she said. "I said that is enough," Dr. Holloway repeated. "We have heard what we need to hear." The older woman next to him looked uncomfortable. She leaned over and whispered something to him. But Dr. Holloway shook his head. "Miss Chen," he said, looking at his notes. "Where did you study?" "I taught myself," Maya said. "Mostly." "Mostly?" Dr. Holloway raised one eyebrow. "My father gave me lessons when I was young, but he passed away 3 years ago. Since then, I have studied on my own." Dr. Holloway made a sound that was almost like a laugh, but not a kind one. "I see," he said. "And where do you practice?" "At a church. They let me use their piano on Sundays." "On Sundays," Dr. Holloway repeated. "Once a week." "Yes." Dr. Holloway looked at the other judges. He shook his head slowly. "Miss Chen," he said, "this academy is one of the finest music schools in the world. Our students practice for many hours every single day. They have studied with the best teachers. They have performed in concerts and competitions. They have dedicated their entire lives to their art." He paused and looked directly at Maya. "What you are doing is admirable, I suppose. Teaching yourself with books and videos. Practicing once a week at a church. But this is not a place for street performers or hobbyists. This is a serious institution. The level of skill required here is far beyond what you have shown us today." Maya felt her face grow hot. Her hands were shaking slightly. She wanted to say something, to defend herself. But the words would not come. "My advice to you, Dr. Holloway continued, is to find something more suitable for your level, perhaps a community choir, or maybe some local group that performs at events. Something simple, something you can handle." The younger woman judge looked away. She seemed embarrassed. The older woman was staring at the table, saying nothing. Maya sat at the piano, frozen. She had expected that getting into this school would be difficult. She had expected to face tough judges and hard questions. But she had not expected this. She had not expected to be dismissed after 30 seconds. She had not expected to be told that she was not good enough to even try. A voice inside her said, "Stand up, walk away, accept it, go home, and forget about this place." But another voice, a deeper voice, said something else. It said, "No, no." She had not come all this way to give up after half a minute. She had not spent 3 years practicing on cardboard keyboards and borrowed pianos just to be told to join a community choir. She had not carried her father's dream in her heart all this time just to let it die in this room. Maya did not stand up. She did not walk away. She stayed on the bench. Dr. Holloway was already looking at his papers, ready to call the next person. "Excuse me," Maya said. He looked up, surprised. "Yes, I would like to play more." Dr. Holloway frowned. "I told you, we have heard enough." "You heard 30 seconds, Maya said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "You heard me make one mistake on a piano I have never touched before. You did not hear what I can really do." The room was very quiet. The other judges were staring at her now. Dr. Holloway's frown deepened. "Young lady," he said, "we have many more people to see today. We cannot spend extra time on every candidate who thinks they deserve a second chance." "I am not asking for a second chance," Maya said. "I am asking for a first one, a real one. 60 seconds. That is all. Give me 60 seconds to show you what I can do. If you still think I am not good enough after that, I will leave and never bother you again." Dr. Holloway stared at her. For a long moment, no one spoke. Maya could hear her own heart beating in her chest. The older woman judge leaned toward Dr. Holloway. "Richard," she said softly, "perhaps we could give her a minute. It would not hurt." Dr. Holloway did not answer right away. He was still looking at Maya with those cold, judging eyes. She met his gaze and did not look away. Finally, He let out a short breath. "Fine," he said. 60 seconds. "But I want to see what you can really do with something simple. None of this Chopin business. Let us see how you handle basic material." He reached under the table and pulled out a sheet of music. He stood up, walked to the piano, and placed it in front of Maya. She looked at it. Her heart sank. It was a beginner's piece, a simple arrangement of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, the kind of thing a child would play in their first year of lessons. The notes were large and easy to read. There were no complicated rhythms, no difficult fingering, no expression marks. It was an insult. Maya knew it. Dr. Holloway knew it. Everyone in the room knew it. He was trying to humiliate her. He was trying to prove his point. He was saying, "This is your level. This is all you are capable of." A children's song. Maya looked at the sheet music for a long time. She could feel the judges watching her. She could feel Dr. Holloway standing nearby, waiting to see what she would do. She could play the piece as written. She could prove that she could at least handle something simple. Maybe that would be enough to make them reconsider, or she could refuse to play. She could tell them that this was disrespectful and walk out with her dignity. But Maya did neither of these things. Instead, she did something that surprised everyone in the room, including herself. She reached out and gently pushed the sheet music to the side of the piano. "I will keep it simple," she said. "But I will do it my way." Dr. Holloway's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean? You want to hear me play something simple?" Maya said. "Something basic." "I understand. But I do not need this sheet music to do that. I will play the same melody. I will keep it simple. But I will show you what simple can become when you really listen to it." Dr. Holloway opened his mouth to say something, but Maya did not give him time. She turned back to the piano, placed her hands on the keys, and closed her eyes. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then Maya began to play. The first notes were exactly what Dr. Holloway had asked for. Simple, basic. The melody of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star played slowly and softly, but then something began to happen. The simple melody did not stay simple. It began to change, to grow, to transform into something else entirely. Maya's fingers moved with a purpose that none of the judges had seen before. The childish tune became something deeper, something richer. New harmonies appeared beneath the familiar notes. The rhythm shifted and changed. The melody started to tell a story that no children's song had ever told. The judges stopped moving. They stopped breathing. They stopped thinking about the next candidate or the time or anything else. They just listened, and as they listened, they began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had looked at this young woman in her thrift store dress, with her taped-together sheet music and her once-a-week practice sessions, and they had decided she was nothing. But she was not nothing. She was something they had not seen in a very long time. She was something real. The melody of the children's song floated through the room, but it was not a children's song anymore. Maya's fingers moved across the keys with a grace that seemed almost impossible. The simple tune twisted and turned, becoming something completely new with every passing second. Dr. Holloway stood frozen near the piano. He had expected Maya to fail. He had expected her to play the beginner's piece badly, or to refuse and walk out in anger. He had not expected this. He had not expected the music that was now filling the room. Maya was not thinking about the judges anymore. She was not thinking about the academy or the scholarship or proving anyone wrong. She was somewhere else entirely. She was in the place where music lived inside her. The place she went to when she practiced alone at the church. The place where she could hear her father's voice guiding her hands. The familiar melody of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star was still there, but it was hidden now, woven into something much more complex. Maya had taken those simple notes and built a whole world around them. There were echoes of jazz in the way her left hand moved. There were touches of classical technique in the runs and arpeggios that decorated the basic tune. And underneath it all, there was something else. Something that could not be taught or learned from books. Something that came from deep inside. It was feeling. Pure, raw, honest feeling. The younger judge, whose name was Dr. Sarah Webb, put down her pen. She had been making notes about each candidate all morning, writing down technical observations and criticisms. But now her pen lay still on the table. She could not write about what she was hearing. There were no words for it. The older judge, Professor Elena Vasquez, removed her glasses and set them aside. She had taught piano for 40 years. She had trained some of the best musicians in the country. She thought she had seen everything there was to see. But this girl, this young woman in the cheap dress, was showing her something new. And Dr. Holloway, the stern man who had dismissed Maya after 30 seconds, the man who had tried to humiliate her with a children's song, he stood completely still. His arms were no longer crossed. His face was no longer cold. He was staring at Maya's hands as they danced over the keys. And his expression was one of pure shock. Maya played on, unaware of the effect she was having. In her mind, she was not in an audition room. She was back home. In the small apartment where she grew up, she was sitting at the old piano with her father beside her. She could almost feel his presence, almost hear his voice saying, "Yes, Maya." Just like that. Let the music breathe. The piece she was playing was not written down anywhere. It existed only in her head, only in her heart. She had been building it for years, adding to it bit by bit during her Sunday sessions at the church, refining it in her imagination during long nights when she could not sleep. It was her secret masterpiece, the thing she had never played for anyone. Until now, the music swelled and grew. The simple melody rose up like a bird taking flight, soaring higher and higher until it seemed to touch the ceiling of the great room. Then it came back down, soft and gentle, like a leaf falling slowly to the ground. Maya added new layers, a haunting bass line that spoke of loss and longing, a dancing treble that sparkled like sunlight on water. The two hands worked together and apart, sometimes chasing each other, sometimes meeting in perfect harmony. 60 seconds had passed long ago, but no one stopped her. No one said a word. The judges sat in silence, caught in the spell of the music. In the back of the room, near the doors, someone else was watching. It was a young man named James Park, a second-year student at the academy. He had come to watch the auditions out of curiosity, to see what kind of candidates were trying to get in this year. He had seen dozens of people play that morning. Some were good. Some were bad. None of them had made him feel anything special, but this girl was different. James leaned against the wall, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open. He could not look away. He could not even blink. Without thinking, he pulled out his phone and pressed record. Maya did not notice. She was lost in the music, in the world she was creating with nothing but her fingers and her soul. The piece moved through different emotions like a story being told without words. There was sadness in it, the deep sadness of losing someone you love. There was struggle, the hard fight of trying to survive when everything seems against you. There was hope, the small light that refuses to go out even in the darkest times. And there was love, the quiet, steady love that holds everything together. Professor Vasquez felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them back, embarrassed by her own emotion. She had heard technical perfection many times in her career. She had heard speed and precision and brilliant interpretation. But she could count on one hand the times she had heard this. This raw, unpolished, completely genuine expression of the human heart, through music. Dr. Webb was crying openly now. She did not try to hide it. She sat at the judge's table with tears running down her cheeks, her hands pressed against her heart. And Dr. Holloway, the man who had called Maya a street performer, the man who had suggested she join a community choir, he was experiencing something he had not felt in a very long time. His chest was tight, his throat was thick, his eyes were burning. He was ashamed of how he had treated this young woman, ashamed of the assumptions he had made, ashamed of the arrogance that had led him to judge her before he had truly listened. The music began to slow. The complicated harmonies simplified. The dancing melodies came together into one single line, clear and pure and heartbreakingly beautiful. It was the original tune again. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, but transformed. It was the same notes Maya had started with, but now they carried the weight of everything that had come before. They were not childish anymore. They were profound. Maya played the final phrase. The last few notes hung in the air like drops of water about to fall. Then her fingers lifted from the keys, and there was silence. Complete, absolute silence. Maya sat at the piano with her eyes still closed. She was breathing hard, like she had just run a long race. Her hands were trembling slightly. Slowly, she opened her eyes and looked up. The 3 judges were staring at her. None of them spoke. None of them moved. For a terrible moment, Maya thought she had made a mistake. She thought that maybe they had hated it. Maybe they thought she was showing off. Maybe they were angry that she had ignored the sheet music and played something of her own. She started to stand up, ready to apologize and leave. "Wait," Dr. Holloway said. His voice was different now. It was not cold or stern. It was soft, almost gentle. "Please," he said. "Sit down." Maya sat back on the bench, confused. Dr. Holloway walked slowly toward the piano. His footsteps echoed in the silent room. He stopped a few feet away from Maya and just looked at her for a long moment. "How long was that?" he asked, turning to the other judges. Dr. Webb checked her watch with shaking hands. "Just over 4 minutes," she said. 4 minutes, Dr. Holloway repeated. "I gave you 60 seconds. You played for 4 minutes. I am sorry," Maya said quickly. "I did not mean to. Do not apologize," Dr. Holloway said. He held up one hand. "Please, do not apologize." He took a deep breath. Maya could see that his hands were not quite steady. "Miss Chen," he said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "Of course," Maya said. "That piece you just played. Where did you learn it?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "Nowhere," she said finally. "I made it up." "You made it up?" Dr. Holloway said. "Just now? On the spot?" "No," Maya said. "I have been working on it for a long time. In my head, mostly. I never had a piano to practice it on properly. I played it the way I heard it inside." Dr. Holloway stared at her. Then he did something that surprised everyone in the room. He laughed. It was not a mean laugh, not the cold, dismissive sound he had made earlier. It was a real laugh, full of wonder and disbelief. "In your head," he said. "You composed a piece like that in your head?" "Yes," Maya said. She did not understand why he was laughing. Dr. Holloway turned to the other judges. They were both watching him with wide eyes. 40 years, he said to them. "I have been teaching for 40 years. And in all that time, do you know how many students I have had who could do what this young woman just did?" He held up his hand, showing 0 fingers. "None," he said. "Not a single one." He turned back to Maya. His eyes were bright now, shining with something that looked almost like joy. "Miss Chen," he said, "I owe you an apology. I looked at you and saw your clothes, your background, your lack of formal training, and I made a judgment. I was wrong. I was completely, utterly wrong." Maya did not know what to say. She sat at the piano in stunned silence. "I have heard technical perfection many times," Dr. Holloway continued. "I can teach technique. I can teach theory. I can teach interpretation. But what you just did, what you just showed us, that cannot be taught. That is a gift. A rare and precious gift." He paused, looking at her with new eyes. "Miss Chen, where did you learn to play like that?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about her father, about the old piano, about the church and the cardboard keyboard, and all the hours she had spent alone with nothing but the music in her mind. "My father taught me to love music," she said quietly. "Everything else, I taught myself. With YouTube videos and library books and the 1 hour a week I could play at the church." Dr. Holloway shook his head slowly. "Remarkable," he whispered. "Absolutely remarkable." In the back of the room, James Park stopped recording. The video was 4 minutes and 37 seconds long. His hands were shaking. He knew he had just witnessed something special. He knew that this video was going to change everything, but Maya did not know any of that yet. She sat at the grand piano in the audition room, looking up at the stern judge who was no longer stern, waiting to hear what would happen next. For the first time since walking into the academy that morning, she allowed herself to feel something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The silence in the audition room stretched on. Maya could hear her own heartbeat, loud and fast in her ears. She watched Dr. Holloway's face, trying to read what he was thinking, trying to understand what would happen now. Professor Vasquez was the first to speak. She stood up from the judge's table and walked toward the piano. Her eyes were still wet from crying, and she made no effort to hide it. "My dear," she said to Maya, her voice warm and gentle. "May I ask you something?" Maya nodded. "The piece you played," Professor Vasquez said. "It told a story. I could feel it. There was so much emotion in every note. What were you thinking about while you played?" Maya was quiet for a moment. No one had ever asked her a question like that before. No one had ever wanted to know what was behind the music. "I was thinking about my father," she said finally. "He was the one who taught me to play. He loved the piano more than anything in the world. When I was little, he would sit me on his lap and show me the keys. He would play songs for me and tell me stories about the composers who wrote them." She paused, her throat tight. "When we came to America, everything changed. My father could not find work as a music teacher here. He had to work in a factory, but every night, no matter how tired he was, he would come home and play. He said the piano kept his soul alive." Professor Vasquez sat down on the edge of the piano bench, next to Maya. She did not say anything. She just listened. "We had an old piano," Maya continued. "It was not a very good one, but it was ours. My father brought it all the way from China. He said it was the most valuable thing we owned. He taught me everything he knew on that piano. Every night, after dinner, we would practice together. He was so patient with me. He never got angry when I made mistakes. He would just smile and say, 'Try again, Maya. The music is waiting for you.'" Dr. Webb had come to stand nearby as well. All three judges were gathered around the piano now, listening to Maya's story. "When I was 16, my father got sick," Maya said. Her voice was barely more than a whisper now. "Cancer. He could not work anymore. The medical bills were very expensive. My mother tried her best, but it was not enough. We had to sell everything we had." She looked down at the piano keys, remembering. "The hardest day was when we sold the piano. My father cried. I had never seen him cry before. 2 men came and carried it away. And my father just sat in his chair, looking out the window. He did not speak for the rest of the day." Professor Vasquez reached out and gently touched Maya's hand. 6 months later he died," Maya said. "I was holding his hand when it happened. The last thing he said to me was, 'Keep playing, Maya. Promise me you will keep playing.'" The room was completely silent. Even the air seemed to hold still. "I promised him," Maya said. "But I did not have a piano anymore. I did not have money for lessons or for a new instrument. So, I found other ways. I went to the church near our apartment and asked if I could use their piano. The pastor said yes, but only for 1 hour on Sundays. That was all the practice time I had." She looked up at the judges. "Do you know what it is like to love something so much but only be able to touch it for 1 hour a week? Do you know how hard it is to keep a promise when everything seems impossible?" None of them answered. They did not need to. The answer was written in the music Maya had just played. "On the nights when I could not sleep, I would practice on a cardboard keyboard," Maya said. "I drew the keys with a marker on a piece of cardboard. It made no sound, but I would move my fingers over it and imagine the music. I could hear it in my head. Every note, every chord. That is how I wrote the piece I played for you. In my imagination, on a silent keyboard, in the middle of the night." Dr. Holloway had been standing still this whole time, listening. Now he spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "Why this audition?" he asked. "Why today? What made you decide to come?" Maya thought about the question. "I saw the notice at the library 3 weeks ago. I almost did not come. I thought, what is the point? I have no training. I have no connections. I have nothing except the music in my head. Why would they ever accept someone like me?" She paused, but then I thought about my father. I thought about the promise I made to him. I thought about all the hours he spent teaching me, all the sacrifices he made, and I knew that if I did not try, if I did not at least walk through those doors and play, I would be breaking my promise. I would be giving up on everything he believed in. She met Dr. Holloway's eyes. So I came. I wore the nicest dress I own, even though I know it is not very nice. I brought my sheet music, even though it is old and falling apart. And I sat in the waiting hall with all those other people, the ones in their expensive clothes with their fancy instruments. And I told myself that I belonged here just as much as they did, because music does not care about money or clothes or where you come from. Music only cares about truth. And the truth is in here. She pressed her hand to her heart. The three judges looked at each other. Something unspoken passed between them. Professor Vasquez stood up and turned to Dr. Holloway. "Richard," she said, "I think we need to talk." Dr. Holloway nodded. He turned to Maya. "Miss Chen, would you mind waiting here for a few minutes? We need to discuss something privately." "Of course," Maya said. The three judges walked to the far corner of the room. They spoke in low voices, their heads bent together. Maya could not hear what they were saying. She sat at the piano and waited, her hands folded in her lap. While the judges talked, Maya looked around the room. It was such a beautiful space, with its high ceilings and tall windows and polished wooden floors. She imagined what it would be like to study here, to walk these halls every day, to have access to pianos like this one whenever she wanted. It seemed like a dream. A beautiful, impossible dream. The judges finished their conversation and walked back toward Maya. Their faces were serious, but not unkind. Dr. Holloway stood in front of the piano. "Miss Chen," he said. Maya held her breath. "This academy has strict rules about admission," Dr. Holloway continued. "We have requirements that must be met, prerequisites that candidates must have completed, standards that must be upheld." Maya's heart began to sink. She knew where this was going. Rules, requirements, standards. Words that meant no. "However," Dr. Holloway said, and something in his voice changed, "there is another rule at this academy, an unwritten rule that is older than any of the official ones. It says that when we encounter true talent, true genius, true artistry, we have a responsibility to nurture it. We have a responsibility to give it a chance to grow." He paused. "Miss Chen, the piece you played for us today was extraordinary. It was not technically perfect. There were moments of uncertainty, places where a trained pianist would have done things differently, but none of that matters. Because what you showed us was something far more valuable than technical perfection. You showed us a voice. A unique, original, deeply moving voice that deserves to be heard." Maya felt tears beginning to form in her eyes. She blinked them back. "We are not just offering you a place at this academy, Dr. Holloway said. "We are offering you a full scholarship, tuition, room, board, and a weekly stipend for living expenses. Everything will be covered." Maya stared at him. She could not speak. She could not move. "Additionally," Professor Vasquez added, "I would like to personally oversee your training. I have never heard anyone play the way you play. I want to help you develop your gift, to give you the technical foundation you need to share your music with the world." Dr. Webb stepped forward. "And I would like to help you document your compositions. You have been creating music in your head for years. It is time to write it down, to record it, to let other people hear what you have been carrying inside you." Maya felt the tears spill over now. She could not stop them. They ran down her cheeks and fell onto the piano keys. "I do not know what to say," she whispered. Dr. Holloway did something unexpected then. He sat down on the piano bench beside her, just as Professor Vasquez had done earlier. "Say yes," he said gently. "Say yes, and let us help you become the musician you were meant to be." Maya looked at him through her tears. This man who had dismissed her, who had tried to humiliate her, who had told her she belonged in a community choir, he was offering her everything she had ever dreamed of. He was offering her a chance to keep her promise to her father. "Yes," she said. Her voice was barely audible. "Yes, I say yes." Dr. Holloway smiled. It was the first time Maya had seen him smile. It changed his whole face, made him look younger and kinder. "Good," he said. "Then welcome to the Harrison Academy of Music, Miss Chen." We are honored to have you. In the back of the room, James Park slipped out through the doors. He had watched the entire scene, his phone still clutched in his hand. The video he had recorded was burning a hole in his pocket. He knew he should probably ask permission before sharing it. He knew there were rules about privacy and consent and all of that. But something told him that this video was too important to keep hidden. The world needed to see what he had just seen. The world needed to know about Maya Chen. He walked quickly down the corridor, already thinking about where to post it. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, every platform he could think of. This is going to change her life, he thought. She just does not know it yet. He was right. But not even James could imagine just how much Maya's life was about to change, or how fast it would happen. Because sometimes, magic is not just something that happens in fairy tales. Sometimes, magic is real. And sometimes, it only takes 4 minutes of music to set it free. Maya walked out of the Harrison Academy of Music in a daze. The cold morning air hit her face, but she barely felt it. Her mind was spinning with everything that had just happened. A scholarship, a full scholarship, room and board and a stipend. Teachers who wanted to help her, who believed in her gift. It did not feel real. None of it felt real. She walked to the bus stop and sat down on the bench to wait. Her hands were still shaking. She pulled her phone out of her pocket and stared at it for a long moment, trying to decide who to call first. Her mother. She had to call her mother. Lin Chen worked as a cleaner at a hotel downtown. She had been working there for 3 years, ever since Maya's father died. Before that, she had worked at a restaurant and a laundromat, sometimes both jobs in the same day. She was a small woman with gray streaks in her black hair and hands that were rough from years of hard work. She rarely complained. She rarely showed how tired she was. She just kept going, day after day. Because that was what she had to do. Maya pressed her mother's number and waited. The phone rang 3 times before Lin answered. Maya? Is everything okay? Why are you calling? Her mother sounded worried. Maya never called during work hours. She knew how important every minute of her mother's job was. Mom, Maya said. Her voice broke on the word. Mom, something happened. What? What happened? Are you hurt? No, I am not hurt. Mom, I went to the audition. The one at the music academy. I told you about it last week. There was silence on the other end. Maya had not told her mother very much about the audition. She had been afraid to get her hopes up, afraid to make her mother worry about dreams that might never come true. I remember, Lin said slowly. You said you were thinking about going. I went, Maya said. And Mom, they gave me a scholarship. A full scholarship. Everything is paid for. Tuition, a place to live, everything. More silence. Then Maya heard a sound she had not heard in a long time. Her mother was crying. Mom? Mom? Are you okay? I am okay, Lin said between sobs. I am more than okay. Oh, Maya. Your father would be so proud. He would be so proud. Now Maya was crying too. They sat there, mother and daughter, separated by miles of city streets, weeping into their phones. I have to go back to work, Lin finally said, her voice still thick with tears. But tonight, when I get home, you have to tell me everything. Every single detail. Promise me. I promise, Maya said. She ended the call and sat at the bus stop, watching the cars go by. The world looked different somehow. Brighter. Fuller of possibility. For the first time in 3 years, Maya felt like the future was not just something to survive. It was something to look forward to. The bus came and she got on. She rode through the city, looking out the window at the buildings and the people and the endless gray streets. Soon, she thought, she would be living near the academy. She would have a room of her own, a real bed, access to practice rooms with beautiful pianos. She would study music every day, learn from professors who had spent their whole lives mastering their craft. It was almost too much to take in. When Maya got home, she went straight to her room. The apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms and a tiny kitchen. Her room was barely big enough for a bed and a desk. On the wall above the desk, there was a photograph of her father. He was sitting at the old piano, smiling at the camera, his hands resting on the keys. Maya looked at the photograph for a long time. "I did it, Dad," she whispered. "I kept my promise. I kept playing." She touched the edge of the photograph gently, then sat down on her bed and closed her eyes. While Maya was riding the bus home, something else was happening across the city. James Park was sitting in his dorm room at the academy, watching the video he had recorded. He had watched it 5 times already. Each time, he noticed something new. The way Maya's shoulders relaxed when she started playing. The way her whole body seemed to move with the music. The expressions on the judges' faces as they realized what they were witnessing. James knew he should ask permission before posting the video. That would be the right thing to do. But he also knew that if he waited, if he asked and they said no, the world would never see this. And the world needed to see this. A made his decision. He uploaded the video to YouTube with a simple title. Girl told to keep it simple, turns piano into magic. He added a brief description, explaining what had happened, how Maya had been dismissed after 30 seconds, how she had asked for 60 more, how she had transformed a children's song into something extraordinary. Then he shared the link on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and he waited. At first, nothing happened. The video sat there with a handful of views, mostly from James's friends and classmates. James checked the numbers every few minutes, feeling slightly disappointed. Maybe he had been wrong. Maybe the video was not as special as he thought. But then, around 4 in the afternoon, something changed. A music blogger found the video and shared it with her followers. She wrote, "I have watched a lot of audition videos in my life. This one made me cry. Watch until the end." Her followers watched. They shared. Their followers watched. They shared too. By 6 in the evening, the video had 10,000 views. By midnight, it had 100,000. By the next morning, when Maya woke up and checked her phone, she had 43 missed calls, 200 text messages, and the video had been viewed more than 2 million times. Maya stared at her phone, not understanding. She had not given her number to anyone at the audition. How did all these people have it? She opened one of the text messages. It was from a name she did not recognize. "Hi, Maya. I'm a producer at ABC News. We'd love to interview you about your audition video. Please call me at your earliest convenience." Maya's hands started shaking. She opened another message. "Miss Chen, I represent the Curtis Institute of Music. We saw your performance and would like to discuss scholarship opportunities. Please contact us immediately." And another, "Maya, this is David Garrett's management team. Mr. Garrett was deeply moved by your video and would like to speak with you about potential collaboration." Maya dropped her phone on the bed. She could not breathe. She did not understand what was happening. Her mother appeared in the doorway, still in her nightgown. Her face was pale. "Maya," she said, "your phone has been ringing all night. What is going on?" "I do not know," Maya said. Her voice came out in a whisper. "I do not know what is happening." Lynn picked up Maya's phone and looked at the screen. Her eyes went wide. 2 million views? She said. "Maya, what video? What is this?" Maya finally found the YouTube link in one of the messages. She clicked on it, and there it was. Herself, sitting at the grand piano in the audition room, playing the piece she had kept secret for 3 years. The video was titled, "Girl Told to Keep It Simple Turns Piano into Magic." She watched herself play. She watched the judges' faces change from dismissive to stunned. She watched Dr. Holloway stand frozen near the piano, his cold expression melting into wonder. And then she read the comments. There were thousands of them. Tens of thousands. "I'm sitting here crying at my desk at work. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." She took a children's song and turned it into a masterpiece, in 4 minutes, without any formal training. "I have no words. This is what music is supposed to be. Not technical perfection. Truth? This girl has more truth in her playing than anyone I've ever heard. Someone give this woman a record deal immediately. I've been playing piano for 20 years and I couldn't do what she did. She's a genius." Maya's mother sat down on the bed next to her. They watched the video together, reading the comments, trying to understand what was happening. "Someone recorded you," Lynn said quietly. "Someone at the audition." "I did not know," Maya said. I had no idea. Her phone rang. Maya looked at the screen. It was an unknown number. She answered it. Miss Chen? This is Sarah Mitchell from Good Morning America. We would like to have you on our show tomorrow morning. We can send a car to pick you up. Would you be available? Maya opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her mother gently took the phone from her hand. Hello, Lynn said, her voice steady even though her hands were trembling. This is Maya's mother. Can you please tell me exactly what is happening? As Lynn talked to the producer, Maya sat on her bed and stared at the wall. The photograph of her father looked back at her. Just yesterday, she had been a waitress who practiced piano once a week at a church. Just yesterday, she had walked into an audition expecting to be rejected. Just yesterday, her dreams had been small and quiet, things she kept hidden in her heart. Now, everything was different. The video was spreading across the internet like wildfire. News stations wanted to interview her. Music schools wanted to offer her scholarships. Famous musicians wanted to meet her. All because of 4 minutes of music. All because she had refused to give up when someone told her she was not good enough. Maya thought about Dr. Holloway, the stern man who had tried to send her away. She thought about how his face had changed as she played. She thought about the tears she had seen in his eyes. She had walked into that audition room as nobody. A girl in a thrift store dress with sheet music held together by tape. A girl with no training, no connections, no future, but she had not stayed nobody. She had sat down at that piano, closed her eyes, and let the music speak for her. She had shown them what simple could become when it came from the heart, and now the whole world was listening. Maya picked up her phone and looked at the video one more time. 2 million views had become 3 million while she was sitting there. The number kept climbing, higher and higher, like the notes of her own composition soaring toward the ceiling of that audition room. She thought about her father, about his voice in her ear telling her to let the music breathe. She thought about the promise she had made to him as he lay dying. Keep playing, Maya. Promise me you will keep playing. I kept my promise, she whispered to the photograph on the wall. And the world heard me. Her phone buzzed with another message. Another offer. Another opportunity. Another door opening where only walls had been before. Maya Chen, the girl who had been told to keep it simple, had turned the piano into pure magic. And this was only the beginning. The next few days passed in a blur that Maya could barely understand. Her small apartment became the center of a storm she never expected. Reporters knocked on the door. Camera crews waited outside on the street. Her phone never stopped ringing, not even in the middle of the night. Lynn took time off work to help her daughter handle everything. She sat at the kitchen table with a notebook, writing down every call, every offer, every request. The list grew longer and longer until it filled page after page. Good Morning America, The Today Show, CNN, BBC. They all wanted to talk to Maya. They all wanted to hear her story. Music producers called with record deals. Concert halls offered performance slots. Universities across the country sent scholarship packages thicker than phone books. A famous piano company wanted to give her a brand new grand piano, free of charge, in exchange for using her image in their advertisements. Maya sat in her tiny bedroom, overwhelmed by all of it. Just 1 week ago, she had been serving coffee and eggs at the diner where she worked. Just 1 week ago, the highlight of her week had been her 1 hour at the church piano. Now strangers on the street recognized her face. Now people she had never met were writing songs about her, making fan pages, sharing her story across the world. The video had reached 50 million views. 50 million people had watched her play. 50 million people had heard the music she had kept hidden in her heart for 3 years. It was too much. It was all too much. On the 4th day after the video went viral, Maya locked herself in her room and cried. She cried for hours, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She did not know why she was crying. She should have been happy. This was everything she had ever dreamed of. But instead, she felt lost, like she was drowning in a sea of attention she did not know how to swim in. Her mother knocked softly on the door. Maya, can I come in? Maya wiped her face and opened the door. Lynn came in and sat down on the bed beside her daughter. She did not say anything at first. She just put her arm around Maya and held her. I do not know how to do this, Maya finally said. I do not know how to be the person everyone wants me to be. I am just a girl who likes to play piano. I am not a celebrity. I am not a star. I do not know how to give interviews or talk to reporters or make decisions about record deals. Lynn was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you remember what your father used to tell you before every recital?" Maya nodded. "Do not think about the people watching. Think only about the music." "That is right," Lynn said. "And that is what you need to do now. All these reporters, all these offers, all these people wanting a piece of you, they are just noise. They are not the reason you play. You play because of the music. You play because of the promise you made to your father. Everything else is just extra." Maya leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. "But how do I say no to all of them? How do I choose what to do?" "You do not have to do it alone," Lynn said. "There are people who can help you. Managers, agents, lawyers. People who understand this world and can guide you through it." The academy called yesterday. "Dr. Holloway wants to meet with you. He said he knows people who can help." Maya thought about Dr. Holloway, the stern man who had dismissed her, who had tried to humiliate her with a children's song. He had apologized. He had offered her a scholarship, but she still felt nervous about seeing him again. "I do not know if I trust him," Maya said. "Then trust yourself," Lynn said. "Go and listen to what he has to say. You do not have to agree to anything, but at least hear him out. He has been in this world for 40 years. He might know things that can help you." The next morning, Maya took the bus to the Harrison Academy. The building looked the same as it had on the day of her audition, but everything felt different now. When she walked through the doors, people stopped and stared. Students whispered to each other. A security guard smiled at her and said, "Miss Chen, welcome back." She was no longer an unknown girl in a thrift store dress. She was someone people recognized. Someone people talked about. Dr. Holloway was waiting for her in his office. The room was large and filled with books about music, history, and theory. There was a beautiful grand piano in one corner, and the walls were covered with photographs of Dr. Holloway with famous musicians from around the world. He stood up when Maya came in and shook her hand. "Miss Chen, thank you for coming. You can call me Maya," she said. "Maya, then." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit down." Maya sat. Dr. Holloway sat too, but not behind his desk. He pulled his chair around so that they were facing each other, with no barrier between them. "I have been watching what has happened since your audition," he said. "The video, the media attention, the offers pouring in. It must be very overwhelming for you." "It is," Maya admitted. "I do not know how to handle any of it." Dr. Holloway nodded. "That is exactly why I wanted to talk to you. I have seen this happen before, to other young musicians. They have a moment of fame, a viral video, a sudden burst of attention. And if they are not careful, if they do not have the right guidance, it can destroy them." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "Destroy them how?" "In many ways," Dr. Holloway said. "Some sign bad contracts that take all their money and leave them with nothing. Some get caught up in the fame and forget why they started playing in the first place. Some burn out from too many performances, too many interviews, too much pressure. The music industry can be wonderful, but it can also be cruel, especially to young artists who do not know how to protect themselves." Maya thought about all the offers sitting on her mother's kitchen table. The record deals, the performance requests, the interview invitations. She had no idea which ones were good and which ones were traps. "What should I do?" she asked. Dr. Holloway leaned forward. "First, you need to slow down. You do not have to say yes to everything. In fact, you should say no to most things, at least for now. Focus on your training. Focus on developing your skills. The opportunities will still be there in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years. But if you spread yourself too thin now, if you try to do everything at once, you will burn out before you ever reach your full potential." Maya listened carefully. This was the opposite of what most people had been telling her. Everyone else said to strike while the iron was hot, to take advantage of her fame before it faded. But Dr. Holloway was saying something different. "Second," he continued, "you need to build a team around you. People you can trust. A manager who will look out for your interests, not their own. A lawyer who can review contracts and make sure you are not being taken advantage of. A mentor who can guide your artistic development. He posted, I would like to be that mentor, if you will let me. I know I made a terrible first impression. I know I judged you unfairly and treated you poorly, but what I saw you do at that audition, what I heard you play, it changed something in me. I have been teaching for 40 years, and I had started to forget why I got into music in the first place. You reminded me. You reminded me that music is not about technique or perfection or prestige. It is about truth. It is about touching people's hearts, and you do that better than anyone I have ever heard. Maya looked at him. She saw the sincerity in his eyes. She saw that he meant every word. Why? She asked. Why do you want to help me? You do not even know me. Dr. Holloway smiled sadly. Because 40 years ago, I was you. I was a young musician with a gift but no connections, no money, no one to guide me. I made a lot of mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. I signed bad contracts. I lost years of my life trying to fix problems that could have been avoided if someone had helped me. I do not want that to happen to you. Maya sat in silence, thinking about his words. She thought about her father, about how much he would have wanted her to have a mentor like this. Someone who understood the music world. Someone who could protect her from its dangers. Okay, she said finally. I accept. I would like you to be my mentor. Dr. Holloway's face broke into a wide smile. It was strange to see him smile. It made him look like a completely different person. Thank you, he said. You will not regret this. I promise you. He stood up and walked to the piano in the corner of his office. Now, he said, I know you have been playing on church pianos and cardboard keyboards for 3 years. It is time to change that. This piano is a Steinway Model D. It is one of the finest instruments in the world. And starting today, you can practice on it whenever you want. He sat down at the bench and played a few notes. The sound was rich and deep, more beautiful than anything Maya had ever heard. Come, he said, moving over to make room. Sit down. Play something for me. Maya walked to the piano and sat beside him. She looked at the keys, so smooth and perfect. She thought about all the pianos she had played in her life. The old upright in their apartment in China, the battered piano at the church, the cardboard keys she had drawn with a marker, and now this. A Steinway Model D, one of the finest instruments in the world. She placed her hands on the keys and began to play. The music filled the room, richer and fuller than she had ever heard it before. Every note sang out with clarity and depth. The piano responded to her touch like a living thing, giving back more than she put in. Dr. Holloway sat beside her, listening, his eyes closed. Beautiful, he whispered. Absolutely beautiful. Maya played on, losing herself in the music. For the first time since the video went viral, she felt at peace. For the first time, she remembered why she was doing all of this. Not for fame, not for money, not for recognition, for the music. Only for the music, and for the promise she had made to her father. Long ago, on the day he died. Keep playing, Maya. Promise me you will keep playing. She was keeping that promise. And now, finally, she had someone to help her along the way. 6 months had passed since the audition that changed everything. Maya stood at the window of her new apartment, looking out at the city lights below. The apartment was small but comfortable, paid for by her scholarship. It was close to the academy, just a 10-minute walk through tree-lined streets. She had a bed that did not creak, a desk where she could study, and best of all, access to the practice rooms at the academy any time she wanted. Her life had settled into a rhythm. Morning classes in music theory and composition, afternoon practice sessions on the Steinway in Dr. Holloway's studio, evening lessons with Professor Vasquez, who was teaching her the technical foundations she had never learned, and late nights in her apartment, studying, writing, dreaming of the music she would create. The media attention had calmed down. The interview requests still came, but Dr. Holloway helped her choose which ones to accept. He taught her how to speak to reporters without giving away too much of herself. He taught her how to say no politely but firmly. He taught her that her privacy was valuable and she did not owe it to anyone. Maya's mother had quit one of her 3 jobs. Maya was sending her money now, part of her scholarship stipend. It was not much, but it was enough to let Lynn rest a little, enough to give her a day off each week, enough to ease some of the burden she had carried alone for so long. They talked on the phone every night. Lynn would tell Maya about her day, about the neighbors, about the small things happening in their old neighborhood. Maya would tell her mother about her classes, her practice sessions, the new pieces she was learning. They never talked for long, but those few minutes each night were precious to both of them. One evening, as Maya was walking back to her apartment after a long practice session, her phone rang. She looked at the screen. It was a number she did not recognize, but something made her answer it. "Hello? Is this Maya Chen?" The voice was male, professional, with a hint of excitement underneath. "Yes, this is Maya. Miss Chen, my name is Robert Shaw. I am the artistic director of Carnegie Hall in New York City. I am calling because we would like to invite you to perform at our venue." Maya stopped walking. She stood in the middle of the sidewalk, her heart suddenly pounding. "Carnegie Hall?" she repeated. She thought she must have heard wrong. "Yes, Carnegie Hall. We have been following your story since your audition video went viral. We have been listening to the recordings you have made at the Academy, and we believe you are ready for a major debut. We would like to offer you a solo concert in our main auditorium, 1 year from now." Maya could not speak. Carnegie Hall was the most famous concert venue in the world. The greatest musicians in history had performed there, pianists she had studied, composers she admired, legends whose names she whispered with reverence. And now they were asking her to play there. "Miss Chen, are you still there?" "Yes," Maya managed to say. "Yes, I am here. I do not know what to say." Robert Shaw laughed warmly. "Take your time. This is a big decision. Talk to your mentor. Talk to your family. We are not going anywhere. The invitation will remain open." After the call ended, Maya stood on the sidewalk for a long time. The city moved around her, cars passing, people walking, lights flickering in windows. She felt like she was in a dream. Carnegie Hall. They wanted her to play at Carnegie Hall. She called Dr. Holloway immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Maya, is everything all right?" "I just got a call," Maya said. Her voice was shaking. "From Carnegie Hall. They want me to perform there, a solo concert. 1 year from now." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then Dr. Holloway said something Maya did not expect. "Are you ready?" Maya thought about the question. Was she ready? She had only been at the academy for 6 months. She had so much still to learn. Her technique was improving, but it was far from perfect. Her repertoire was growing, but it was still limited. "I do not know," she said honestly. "I do not think so. Not yet." "Good," Dr. Holloway said. "That is the right answer. If you had said yes, I would be worried. The fact that you recognize how much you still have to learn tells me that you might actually be ready. Not today, not tomorrow, but in a year. With hard work and dedication, you could be." "So I should accept?" Maya asked. "That is not for me to decide," Dr. Holloway said. "This is your life, your career, your dream. But I will tell you this. Opportunities like this do not come often. Carnegie Hall does not invite just anyone to perform. They see something in you. Something special. The question is whether you are willing to work hard enough to live up to that potential." Maya thought about his words all night. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining herself on the stage of Carnegie Hall. The lights, the audience, the weight of history pressing down on her. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. The next morning, she called Robert Shaw back and accepted the invitation. The year that followed was the hardest of Maya's life. She practiced more than she had ever practiced before, 8 hours a day, sometimes 10. Her fingers ached. Her back was sore from sitting at the piano bench for so long. Some nights she was so tired she could barely walk to her bed. But she kept going. She kept pushing. Because every time she felt like giving up, she thought about her father. She thought about the old piano they had sold. She thought about the cardboard keyboard and the 1 hour a week at the church. She had come so far from those days. She could not stop now. Dr. Holloway worked with her every day. He was demanding, but patient. He pushed her to be better, to dig deeper, to find new layers of meaning in every piece she played. When she made mistakes, he did not get angry. He simply said, "Again," and waited for her to try once more. Professor Vasquez helped her build her technique. She taught Maya exercises and drills that made her fingers stronger and faster. She showed her how to produce different sounds from the piano, how to make it sing, how to make it whisper, how to make it roar. Dr. Webb worked with her on the program for her concert. Together, they chose pieces that would showcase Maya's unique voice. Classical works by Chopin and Debussy, modern compositions by living composers, and, of course, the piece that had started it all, the transformed version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, that Maya had now titled simply Simple. As the months passed, Maya began to change, not just as a musician, but as a person. She grew more confident. She learned to trust herself, to believe in her own abilities. She stopped comparing herself to other pianists and focused on becoming the best version of herself. She also began to compose more. The melodies that had lived in her head for years started to come out onto paper. She wrote pieces about her father, about her mother, about the journey she had taken from a small apartment in Detroit to the halls of a prestigious music academy. Each composition was different, but they all shared the same quality that had made her audition video so powerful. They were honest. They were true. They came from the deepest part of her heart. 3 months before the Carnegie Hall concert, Maya went home to visit her mother. Lynn had moved to a new apartment, a slightly bigger one in a slightly nicer neighborhood. Maya had helped pay for it. It felt good to finally be able to give something back after all the years her mother had sacrificed for her. They sat at the kitchen table, drinking tea, talking about everything and nothing. Lynn looked healthier than she had in years. She was smiling more, laughing more. The weight of worry that had pressed down on her for so long seemed to have lifted. "I am proud of you," Lynn said. "Your father would be proud too." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I wish he could be there. At the concert. I wish he could see what his teaching led to." Lynn reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "He will be there. Maybe not in body, but in spirit. He is always with you, Maya. Every time you sit down at the piano, every time you play a note, he is there. He lives in your music." Maya squeezed her mother's hand. She thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The audition, the dismissal, the 60 seconds that turned into 4 minutes, the video that changed her life, the scholarship, the training, the Carnegie Hall invitation. It had all started with a promise. "Keep playing, Maya. Promise me, you will keep playing." She had kept that promise. And in 3 months, she would keep it on the biggest stage in the world. The night before she left to go back to the academy, Maya went to the church where she used to practice. The old piano was still there. In the same back room, looking exactly as she remembered it. She sat down at the bench and played a few notes. The sound was thin and slightly out of tune, so different from the Steinway she was used to now. But it felt like home. She played simple, one more time, the piece that had started everything. The familiar melody filled the small room, transforming as it always did, growing and changing and becoming something more than the sum of its parts. When she finished, she sat in the silence that followed. The silence after the music ends, when the notes still seem to hang in the air. When everything feels possible, that silence was her favorite part. It was the space where the music lived on, echoing in the hearts of everyone who heard it. In 3 months, she would create that silence at Carnegie Hall. She would fill the most famous concert venue in the world with her music, and then she would let the silence speak. Maya closed the lid of the old church piano gently and whispered a thank you. To the piano, to the pastor who had let her practice, to everyone who had helped her along the way. Then she stood up and walked out into the night, ready for whatever came next. The week before the Carnegie Hall concert, Maya could not sleep. She lay awake each night, staring at the ceiling, running through her program in her mind. Every note, every phrase, every moment where she would pause and let the music breathe. She knew the pieces by heart. She had played them hundreds of times. But still, the fear crept in. What if she forgot something? What if her hands froze? What if she walked onto that famous stage and discovered that she was not ready after all? Dr. Holloway noticed the dark circles under her eyes during their practice session. "You are not sleeping," he said. It was not a question. "No," Maya admitted. "I cannot stop thinking about everything that could go wrong." Dr. Holloway closed the lid of the piano and turned to face her fully. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "About my first major concert." Maya looked at him with surprise. In all the months they had worked together, Dr. Holloway had rarely talked about himself. She knew he had been a performer before becoming a teacher. But he never spoke about those days. "I was 23 years old," Dr. Holloway began. "I had won a competition that gave me the chance to perform at a famous hall in Vienna. It was supposed to be the start of my career. Everyone said I was destined for greatness. The newspapers called me a prodigy. The critics said I would be one of the finest pianists of my generation." He paused, his eyes distant with memory. "The night of the concert, I was terrified. Just like you are now. I could not eat, could not sleep, could not think about anything, except all the ways I might fail. When I walked onto that stage and saw the audience, hundreds of faces staring up at me, I felt like I was going to be sick." "What happened?" Maya asked. "I sat down at the piano. I put my hands on the keys. And then, nothing. My mind went blank. I could not remember a single note of the piece I was supposed to play. I sat there for what felt like hours, though it was probably only a few seconds. The audience started to whisper. I could hear them wondering what was wrong with me. Dr. Holloway's voice was heavy with the weight of old pain. I managed to start playing eventually. But I was not really there. I was somewhere else, trapped inside my own fear. I made mistakes I had never made before. I rushed through passages that should have been slow. I played loud when I should have played soft. By the time I finished, I knew my career was over before it had even begun. Maya felt her heart ache for him. "That must have been terrible." "It was," Dr. Holloway said. "And for many years, I blamed everyone but myself. I blamed the audience for making me nervous. I blamed the critics for putting too much pressure on me. I blamed my teachers for not preparing me properly. But eventually, I realized the truth." What was the truth? That I had forgotten why I was there. I had gotten so caught up in what other people expected of me, in what success was supposed to look like, that I forgot about the only thing that mattered. The music. I was not on that stage to prove anything to anyone. I was there to share something beautiful with the world. And I let my fear take that away from me. He looked at Maya with an intensity she had never seen before. "I do not want that to happen to you. You have something I never had. You have a connection to the music that goes deeper than technique, deeper than training, deeper than anything I can teach you. When you play, you are not performing. You are telling the truth. And the truth does not care about nerves or fear, or what the critics might say." Maya thought about his words. She thought about all the times she had played when no one was listening. At the church, alone in the back room, in her apartment, with only the walls as her audience, at the audition, when she closed her eyes and forgot about the judges. Those were the times when the music was purest, when she was not trying to impress anyone or prove anything, when she was just Maya, playing the piano, letting the melodies speak for her. "How do I get back to that?" she asked. "How do I forget about the audience and just play?" Dr. Holloway smiled. "You already know how. You did it at your audition. You closed your eyes and went somewhere else. Somewhere the judges could not reach you. Somewhere the fear could not follow." He stood up and walked to the window of his studio. "When you walk onto that stage at Carnegie Hall, you will see thousands of people. Famous musicians, important critics, reporters from every major publication. And yes, it will be terrifying. But here is what I want you to remember." He turned back to face her. "None of them matter. Not the critics, not the reporters, not even me. The only person who matters is your father. Play for him. Play as if he is sitting in the front row, watching you keep the promise you made to him. Play as if you are back in that small apartment in China, sitting on his lap while he shows you the keys for the first time." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. "I miss him," she whispered. "Every single day." "I know you do," Dr. Holloway said gently. And that is exactly why your music touches people the way it does. Because it comes from love, from loss, from the deepest parts of your heart. No amount of training can create that. It is a gift. Your father's gift to you. They sat in silence for a moment, teacher and student, connected by something that went beyond music. There is something else I need to tell you, Dr. Holloway said finally. Maya looked at him, waiting. At your audition, when I told you to play something simple and handed you that children's song, I was trying to humiliate you. I wanted you to fail. I wanted to prove that I was right about you, that you were just another unqualified dreamer with delusions of grandeur. His voice was thick with shame. When you pushed that sheet music aside and said you would do it your way, I was furious. Who did this girl think she was, defying me? And then you started to play, and everything changed. He walked back to where Maya sat and lowered himself into the chair beside her. I have heard thousands of pianists in my lifetime. Competition winners, concert masters, virtuosos who could play pieces that would make your head spin. But in that moment, listening to you transform that simple melody into something extraordinary, I realized I was hearing something I had never heard before. Not perfection, not technique. Something better, something true. Maya remembered that moment. The way Dr. Holloway's face had changed. The way the whole room had gone silent. You asked me once why I wanted to help you, he continued. I told you it was because I had made mistakes when I was young, and I did not want you to repeat them. That was true. But it was not the whole truth. He took a deep breath. The whole truth is that you gave me something that day. You reminded me of what music is supposed to be. For years, I had been teaching technique, drilling students on scales and arpeggios, focusing on perfection above all else. I had forgotten that music is not about being perfect. It is about being real. It is about taking the simple things, the everyday things, and turning them into something magical. He reached out and placed his hand over Maya's. You taught me that. A 19-year-old girl in a thrift store dress, with no formal training and a folder of taped-together sheet music. You taught me something I had spent 40 years forgetting. Maya did not know what to say. She had always thought of Dr. Holloway as her teacher, as someone who had all the answers, who knew everything there was to know about music and life and art. But now she saw him differently. She saw him as a person who had struggled and failed and learned and grown, just like everyone else. Thank you, she said softly, for telling me that, for being honest with me. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Dr. Holloway replied. After the way I treated you at that audition, I would not have blamed you for walking away and never speaking to me again. Maya smiled. My mother told me to give you a chance. She said you might know things that could help me. She was right. Dr. Holloway laughed, a warm sound that filled the room. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She is, Maya said. She is the wisest person I know. They sat together in comfortable silence, the late afternoon light streaming through the windows. The fear that had been keeping Maya awake at night still lingered, but it felt smaller now, more manageable. She thought about what Dr. Holloway had said. Play for your father. Play as if he is sitting in the front row. Play as if none of the critics or reporters matter. She could do that. She had been doing it her whole life. I should go, Maya said finally, standing up. I need to get some rest. The concert is in 5 days. Dr. Holloway stood as well. Remember what I told you. When the fear comes, and it will come, do not fight it. Just close your eyes and go back to the place where the music lives, the place where your father taught you to play, the place where nothing matters except the truth. Maya nodded. She gathered her things and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back. Dr. Holloway? Yes. I am glad I did not walk away that day. I am glad I asked for 60 more seconds. He smiled, his eyes bright with something that looked like pride. So am I, Maya. So am I. The day of the concert arrived faster than Maya expected. One moment she was counting down the days. And the next, she was standing backstage at Carnegie Hall, wearing a beautiful black dress that Professor Vasquez had helped her choose, her heart beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. The backstage area was busy with people. Stage managers spoke into headsets. Technicians checked lights and sound equipment. Someone handed Maya a glass of water, which she accepted with trembling hands. Through a gap in the curtains, she could see the audience filing into their seats. The hall was enormous, bigger than anything she had ever seen. Row after row of red velvet chairs stretched back into shadows. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting warm golden light over everything. The walls were covered in ornate decorations, carved wood and gold leaf, centuries of history built into every corner. This was Carnegie Hall, the same stage where the greatest musicians in the world had performed, where legends had been made and careers had been launched. Where tonight, Maya Chen, a girl from a small apartment in Detroit who had practiced on cardboard keyboards and borrowed pianos, would play. She felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find Dr. Holloway standing behind her. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "Good. That means you care," he smiled. "Remember what we talked about. This is not about the audience. This is not about the critics. This is about you and the music. Nothing else matters." Maya nodded, trying to hold on to his words. "There is someone here to see you," Dr. Holloway said. "I hope you do not mind, but I invited a special guest." He stepped aside, and Maya saw her mother standing in the hallway. Lynn was wearing a new dress, deep blue with silver threads, more beautiful than anything Maya had ever seen her wear. Her hair was done nicely, and she was wearing small earrings that sparkled in the light. "Mom," Maya breathed. Lynn rushed forward and wrapped her arms around her daughter. They held each other for a long moment, neither of them speaking. "I am so proud of you," Lynn whispered. "So proud." "I wish Dad could be here," Maya said, her voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. Lynn pulled back and looked into Maya's eyes. "He is here. He has always been here. Every time you play, you bring him back to life. The music you make, it carries his spirit. Tonight, when you walk onto that stage, he will be walking beside you." Maya felt tears threatening to fall, but she blinked them back. She could not cry now. Not yet. There would be time for tears later. "I have something for you," Lynn said. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn photograph. It was the same picture that Maya kept on her desk, the one of her father sitting at the old piano. "I had this one framed," Lynn explained, turning it over to show a small clip on the back. "You can attach it to the inside of the piano, where only you can see it. That way, your father will be right there with you when you play." Maya took the photograph with trembling hands. She looked at her father's face, his gentle smile, his hands resting on the keys. "Thank you, Mom. This is perfect." A stage manager appeared. "Miss Chen, 5 minutes." Maya's heart jumped. 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, she would walk onto the most famous stage in the world. Lynn hugged her one more time. "You can do this. I know you can. I love you, Mom." "I love you too, Maya. Now go show them what you can do." Dr. Holloway escorted Lynn to her seat in the audience. In the front row, exactly where he had promised she would be. Maya watched them go, then turned to face the stage. She walked to the edge of the curtain and looked out at the piano. It was a Steinway concert grand, the finest instrument money could buy, polished to a mirror shine under the stage lights. In a few moments, she would be sitting at that piano, playing for thousands of people. The fear rose up in her chest, cold and tight. Her hands started to shake. Her breath came in short, rapid gasps. "This is too big," a voice in her head said. "You are not ready. You are just a girl from Detroit who taught herself to play on a cardboard keyboard. You do not belong here." Maya closed her eyes. She thought about what Dr. Holloway had told her. "Go back to the place where the music lives. The place where your father taught you to play." She pictured their small apartment in China. The old piano in the corner. Her father sitting beside her, his hands guiding hers over the keys. She could almost hear his voice. "Do not think about the people watching. Think only about the music. Let the music speak for you." Maya opened her eyes. The fear was still there, but it was quieter now. More distant. She took the photograph of her father and walked onto the stage. The audience fell silent as she appeared. Thousands of eyes turned toward her. Cameras flashed. People whispered to each other. Maya could see the front row now. Could see her mother's face, tear-streaked but smiling. could see Dr. Holloway sitting beside her, his expression calm and confident. She walked to the piano and sat down on the bench. She opened the lid and placed the photograph inside, propping it up where she could see it. Her father smiled at her from the past, forever frozen in that moment of joy at the piano. "Hi, Dad," she whispered. "We made it." She placed her hands on the keys. The audience waited, holding their breath, and then Maya began to play. The first piece was Chopin's Ballade, No One. The same piece she had tried to play at her audition almost 2 years ago. But this time, there was no one to stop her after 30 seconds. This time, she played it all the way through. Every note perfect, every phrase full of meaning. The music flowed from her fingers like water from a spring. It filled the great hall, rising to the ceiling, echoing off the walls, touching every heart in the audience. Maya was not nervous anymore. She was not thinking about the critics or the cameras or the thousands of people watching. She was somewhere else entirely. She was back home, sitting at the old piano with her father. She was at the church, playing alone in the back room while the evening light faded. She was in her tiny apartment, moving her fingers over cardboard keys, hearing the music only in her imagination. All of those moments came together now, here, on this stage. All the years of practice, all the hours of study, all the dreams she had carried in her heart. They poured out through her fingers and into the piano, transformed into something beautiful. The Chopin ended, and the audience erupted into applause. Maya barely heard it. She was already moving on to the next piece, a modern composition by a living composer, full of strange harmonies and unexpected rhythms. Then a Debussy, soft and dreamy, like moonlight on water. Each piece was different, but they all shared the same quality. The quality that had made her audition video go viral. The quality that had brought tears to Dr. Holloway's eyes. The quality that could not be taught or learned, only felt. Truth. Simple, honest truth, expressed through music. Finally, it was time for the last piece. The piece she had saved for the end. The piece that had started everything. Maya looked down at the photograph of her father. She took a deep breath. "This last piece," she said, speaking into the silence of the hall, "is called Simple. I wrote it for my father, who taught me everything I know about music and about life. He passed away 3 years ago, but he is with me tonight. He is always with me. Every time I sit down at a piano." She paused. "Dad, this one is for you." And then she began to play. The familiar melody of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star filled Carnegie Hall. But it did not stay simple for long. Just as it had at the audition, the music began to transform. New harmonies appeared. The rhythm shifted and changed. The childish tune became something profound, something that spoke of love and loss, of dreams and determination, of a young girl's promise to her dying father. In the front row, Lynn was crying openly. She made no effort to hide her tears. Beside her, Dr. Holloway had his eyes closed, a small smile on his lips. Throughout the audience, people were moved in ways they had not expected. Critics who had come to judge found themselves weeping. Reporters forgot to take notes. Famous musicians listened with wonder, knowing they were witnessing something rare and precious. Maya played on, lost in the music, lost in the memory of her father, lost in the truth of who she was and what she had overcome. The piece built to its climax, all the voices weaving together into a tapestry of sound. Then, slowly, it began to descend. The complex harmonies simplified. The dancing melodies came together into one clear line. The final notes rang out, pure and true. And then there was silence. The silence after the music ends. The silence that Maya loved more than anything. The silence where everything she had played continued to live, echoing in the hearts of everyone who had heard it. The silence lasted for 3 seconds. 5, 10, then the audience rose to their feet as one, and the applause was like thunder. The standing ovation lasted for 7 minutes. Maya stood at the edge of the stage, bowing again and again, as the applause washed over her like waves on a shore. Flowers rained down from the balconies. People shouted her name. Some were crying, some were laughing. All of them were on their feet, honoring the young woman who had just played the concert of a lifetime. Maya looked out at the sea of faces and felt something she had never felt before. It was not pride, exactly, though there was pride in it. It was not joy, though there was joy too. It was something deeper than both of those things. It was the feeling of a promise kept, the feeling of a circle completed, the feeling of a journey that had finally reached its destination. She had done it. She had kept her promise to her father. She had played at Carnegie Hall. When the applause finally began to fade, Maya walked off stage. The moment she was out of sight of the audience, her legs gave way. She collapsed against the wall, shaking, laughing, crying all at once. Dr. Holloway was there. He caught her before she fell and held her steady. "You did it," he said. "You did it, Maya." "I did it," she repeated, hardly able to believe her own words. "I actually did it." Professor Vasquez appeared, her face wet with tears. "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever heard," she said. "In all my years of teaching, all my years of listening, I have never heard anything like that." Dr. Webb was there too, and the stage managers, and people Maya had never met, all of them crowding around her, congratulating her, telling her how amazing she was. But Maya was looking for only one person. "Where is my mom?" Dr. Holloway smiled and stepped aside. Lynn was standing there. In her beautiful blue dress, her face streaked with tears but glowing with happiness. She opened her arms, and Maya ran into them. "You did it, my girl," Lynn whispered. "You did it. Your father would be so proud." So proud. They held each other for a long time, mother and daughter, standing in the backstage darkness of Carnegie Hall, while the audience slowly filed out and the stage lights dimmed. The next few hours were a blur of activity. There was a reception after the concert, where Maya met famous musicians and important critics and wealthy patrons of the arts. Everyone wanted to shake her hand, to tell her how moved they had been, to ask about her story and her music and her plans for the future. Maya answered their questions as best she could. But part of her was somewhere else. Part of her was still on stage, still playing, still feeling the music flow through her like electricity. Several record labels approached her with contract offers. Concert promoters invited her to perform in London, Paris, Vienna, Tokyo. A famous composer asked if he could write a piece specifically for her. Maya listened to all of it, smiled politely, and said she would think about it. Dr. Holloway had taught her well. She knew better now than to say yes to everything. She knew that the most important thing was not fame, or money, or success. The most important thing was the music. Everything else was just noise. Late that night, after the reception had ended and the hall had emptied, Maya asked if she could go back onto the stage one more time. The security guards recognized her and let her through. She walked out onto the empty stage. The seats were vacant now, thousands of red velvet chairs sitting silent in the darkness. The chandeliers had been dimmed. The only light came from a single lamp at the edge of the stage. Maya sat down at the piano. It was still there, the Steinway Concert Grand, waiting for her. She opened the lid and found the photograph of her father, still propped up inside where she had placed it. "We did it, Dad," she said softly. "We played at Carnegie Hall." She placed her hands on the keys and began to play. Not simple this time, not any of the pieces from her program, something new, something that was coming to her right now, in this moment, in this empty hall. It was a melody she had never played before. It was soft and gentle, like a lullaby, like the songs her father used to play for her when she was small, before they came to America. Before everything changed, she played, and the music filled the empty hall. It was a private concert, an audience of one. Just Maya and her father, together again. Connected by the language that needed no words. When she finished, she sat in the silence that followed. The beautiful, precious silence that she loved so much. "I miss you," she whispered to the photograph. "I will always miss you. But I know you are with me. I can feel you every time I play. And I will keep playing, Dad. I will keep my promise. For the rest of my life." She closed the piano lid gently and stood up. She looked out at the empty seats one more time. imagining all the people who had been sitting there just hours ago. Thousands of strangers who had come to hear her play, thousands of hearts she had touched with her music. This was her life now. This was what she had worked for, dreamed of, sacrificed for. And it was only the beginning. 5 years later, Maya Chen was one of the most celebrated pianists in the world. She had performed in every major concert hall on every continent. She had released 4 albums, each one more successful than the last. She had won awards and honors and recognition that would have seemed impossible to the 19-year-old girl who walked into an audition in a thrift store dress. But none of that was what mattered most to her. What mattered most was the music, the truth she could tell through her fingers, the connection she could make with audiences around the world. And what mattered most was her family. Lynn had retired from cleaning hotels. She lived in a nice apartment now, near Maya's home in New York. They had dinner together every week, just the two of them, talking about everything and nothing, the way they used to on the phone when Maya was a student. Dr. Holloway was still her mentor and had become one of her closest friends. He came to her concerts whenever he could. He was in his 70s now, but his eyes still sparkled when he talked about music, and his advice was still the wisest she knew. And then there was the new generation. Maya had started a foundation in her father's name. The Chen Music Foundation provided scholarships to young musicians from low-income families, kids who had talent but no money, kids who practiced on borrowed instruments and dreamed of something more. Every year, Maya personally auditioned candidates for the foundation. She sat in a room much like the one where she had been judged, and she listened to young people play. Some were good, some were not so good. But she never stopped anyone after 30 seconds. She never told anyone they belonged in a community choir. She gave every single candidate a chance to show what they could do, because she remembered what it felt like to be dismissed. She remembered what it felt like to be told she was not good enough. And she never wanted anyone else to feel that way. One afternoon, a young boy came to audition for the foundation. He was 12 years old, small for his age, wearing clothes that were clearly second-hand. His violin was old and scratched. He looked terrified. Maya smiled at him. "What is your name?" "Thomas," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It is nice to meet you, Thomas. What are you going to play for us today?" "A piece by Bach," Thomas said. "But I am not very good. My teacher says I need more practice." Maya leaned forward. "Thomas, can I tell you something?" The boy nodded. "When I was 19 years old, I walked into an audition just like this one. The judges stopped me after 30 seconds. They told me I was not good enough. They told me to go join a community choir. They did not give me a chance." Thomas's eyes went wide. "But I asked for 60 more seconds," Maya continued. "And in those 60 seconds, I showed them what I could really do. So I want you to know that no matter what happens today, you will get your full chance. I am not going to stop you early. I am not going to judge you before you are finished. I am going to listen, really listen, because everyone deserves that." Thomas stared at her for a moment. Then he straightened his shoulders, lifted his violin, and began to play. Maya sat back and listened. The boy was rough around the edges. His technique needed work. But there was something there. A spark, a feeling, the same thing that Maya had carried inside her all those years ago. When Thomas finished, Maya clapped. "That was wonderful," she said. "You have real talent, Thomas. With some training and practice, you could be very, very good." Thomas's face lit up. "Really? You think so?" "I know so," Maya said. "Welcome to the Chen Music Foundation." As the boy ran out of the room to tell his parents, Maya sat alone for a moment. She thought about everything that had brought her here. The audition, the dismissal, the 60 seconds that became 4 minutes, the viral video, the scholarship, Carnegie Hall, all of it, leading to this moment, where she could help someone else the way she had been helped. This was her legacy now. Not the awards or the albums or the fame. This, giving other people the chance to keep their own promises, to follow their own dreams, to turn something simple into something magical. Maya stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city was alive with movement and noise. People going about their lives, each one carrying their own dreams, their own struggles, their own music. She thought about her father. about the promise she had made to him. Keep playing, Maya. Promise me, you will keep playing. She had kept that promise, and she would keep it for the rest of her life, because music was not just something she did. It was who she was. It was her truth. And the truth, once spoken, never dies. It just keeps playing, on, forever. She smiled, and somewhere in her heart, she could hear her father smiling too. The end.